check the feed real quick. See what we got. Shalom. One second. We good to go. Lord willing, the audio's on point. Yep. All right, so we good to go. Hey, Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who taught me this truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm back with another live lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Rakak Wadash. Pray that this quick lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. All right. And like I said before, I like to go into these type of topics where these Edomites are just pretty much speaking about, you know, what's going to happen and their concerns about the future and things like that. This quick video here, this Edomite goes into the irrational fear of a so-called black planet. All right. And the truth of the matter is that that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. And we'll read that real quick. All right. Because I said there's a lot of videos that I often speak about. There's lots of content online of these Edomites expressing their feelings of this failing American society, and you know the fear of what's going to happen next. All right, the fact that they're the minority of the planet Earth and their power has been stripped away, things like that. But like I said, I'm gonna play this clip in 1 second. I just want to grab the scripture. All right, because this Edomite in this video is clearly not reading the Bible, right? But this is real quick. This is 2 Ezra 6 and verse 7, and it reads, I started at 6, 2 Ezra 6 and verse 6, and it reads, it says, then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they should be ended, and by none other. All right, and this is Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, all things were created by him, and all things will be ended by him. All right, including this this age we live in now. All right, this dominion of the Edomite. All right, verse 7. Then answered I said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? All right, which should be the dividing of the age. All right, the beginning and ending of this age, right? It says what should be the parting asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first, in the beginning of it that followeth. All right, 2 Ezra 6 and 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, which that was symbolic of pretty much, you know, Jacob being on the heels of Esau. Okay, and also pulling Esau from the power. All right. It says, verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world. Right. So understanding that the Edomites would be ruling at the end of this current world. Okay. Ain't no damn Arabic nations. It's not Saudi Arabia. Ain't no damn Japhet. All right. It's the biblical Edomites, the so-called white people, man. All right. And the small hats included. All right. Like I talked about the lesson the other day, you know, there's no separation between the so-called white man. All right. And the JEW. All right. They're the same nation of people. All right. And they're not going to get away from that. All right. Again, 2 Ezra 6 and 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right. So that's the world to come. All right. That's the world that these Edomites fear. Like you see here, the irrational fear of a so-called black planet. Let me get one more, and we'll get to the clip here. Speaking out loud, Ecclesiastes 1, quick precept. All right. Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 4, and it reads, it says, one generation passeth away. All right. And we're in that generation that's about to pass away. All right. The generation of Esau, Edom, ruling the earth. One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh. And who was that? Jacob. but the earth abideth forever. So this earth, this world as we know it, is going to go out with a violent destruction. All right, you're going to have America completely decimated. All right, the land of Israel. All right, various parts of the earth, because remember the nuclear missiles are going to be shot from one end to the earth to the other. All right, and through that violent and devastating destruction is how the Lord is going to rearrange the planet Earth. As you read the scriptures, man, He said that I've created that I will create a new heaven and a new earth. Okay, and the Lord is going to use this final nuclear war to do that, as it tells us that islands and mountains will be removed out of their places. It's going to be a whole restructure of the planet Earth after this nuclear destruction. So that's how it's going to play out. All right, but anyway, let's get into it. Quick video clip here. All right, Lord willing, you can hear it.
White people, not all of them, but the ones that are really concerned with race, are concerned about the fact that it's looking like America is no longer going to be majority white in the very near future. If that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. I don't really take it.
The America is going to no longer exist. The hell will it be in, majority, black and whatever, America's going to be eliminated. It's not, it will cease to exist. What's he talking about?
White people, not all of them, but the ones that are really concerned with race, are concerned about the fact that it's looking like America is no longer going to be majority white in the very near future. If that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. I don't really take any issue with it. My thing would be if America was no longer run by a majority of white people, who is the best people to be in charge of a new America? And my vote would be black Americans. See, what a lot of white people don't realize is black Americans being in charge of this country would be the best chance you got of still being treated fairly. Because if you notice, if you don't get your head all caught up in racist ideology, black folks are basically cool with white people. I know the media like to make us think we're caught up in this race war, and all white folks hate black folks, and all black folks hate white folks. But for the most part, if you ask black folks how they feel about white folks, the general answer is usually like, I feel no type of way about them. They could do them as long as they don't affect me doing me. Truthfully, I could see if black folks were more prominent in positions of power, this has got to be one of the only groups of people who would want to get something for themselves without taking anything away from anybody else. And that's truthfully how I've always seen it to be. Black people don't want to ruin shit for anybody else. Black people don't want to take.
And that's where he's wrong. All right. Like I said, he's not. He don't know the scriptures. He's not reading the Bible. All right. He's just talking. All right. We're getting ready to rule the earth. What's this guy talking about? Let me finish it out. That's why I just wanted to do a quick little land back off this video clip here. All right.
In positions of power, this has got to be one of the only groups of people who would want to get something for themselves without taking anything away from anybody else. And that's truthfully how I've always seen it to be. Black people don't want to ruin shit for anybody else. Black people don't want to take something over and exclude everybody else that wants a piece of the pie. For whatever they want to say, generally in this day and age, black folks and white folks have the same opportunities, but there's always just this little bias against black folks in America. It'll never fully go away. It's not as heavy as it used to be, but it's still lightly there beneath the surface. I think if government was majority black, I think if more police in prominent cities were majority black, it'd be kind of like the way things are now, just reverse. You get pulled over, driving while white, they'd be like, it's cool. I can see that you're white. You were going over the speed limit. Cooperate with us. Everything's going to be straight. You give them an attitude, you move erratically, and then they start fucking you up. And then the white people are going to be like, it's because I was white. And the black police are going to be like, it's not because you're white. You're going over the speed limit. Then you started acting threatening towards us. You see all these other white people that we left alone because they cooperated with us. I'm being lightly humorous, but I'm really not. There are other cultures that would turn America into another country just out of faith to their own culture. They would want their culture to be the predominant culture in America. And aside from all these disagreements that stand between us and the media exacerbating it so we always fight, black and white Americans are the most comparable in terms of American culture. And in fact, so much of black culture became American culture. If America could no longer be run by a majority of white folks, I think black folks would be the natural transition. Like I said, especially because when you look at black success, you really just don't see an aim to ruin anybody else's success, take anything away from anybody else. When black men and women achieve real success, you notice the less concerned they are with anything white people or any other culture has going on. They're like, dog, this is the American dream. I got something for me, and I worked hard for it. But so many other ethnicities and so many other cultures are much more concerned with us versus them mentality. And if you have that in running a society, there's always going to be an imbalance.
Yeah, so, just like him and many other Jakes that think like that, we're not going to coexist with these Edomites in the kingdom of heaven. All right, and that's the point. All right, they're going to be beneath us. All right, so that's what I was saying. Like, what is he talking about? All right, but like he's saying, there is going to be what you would call a so-called black planet because, and when I say that, I'm talking about dealing with the tribes. There's going to be melanated people ruling the planet Earth forever. All right, and that's prophecy. Okay, the world was created for our sakes. Let me get that too. Second Ezra's back in Second Ezra 6, all right? And this is what these Edomites, they fear the most. You know what I'm saying? Our time of captivity is almost over, all right? And the next to rule are the Israelites, to rule the planet Earth forever, for eternity, man. All right, the rightful rulers of the earth. This is Second Ezra 6. And we'll start at verse 2 Ezra 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all. And the people also whom thou hast chosen, all right, the sons of God, the chosen line, all right, the sons of Adam, which would be the Israelites today. So there was always a chosen line, even from the beginning of the time, all right. It says, all this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. Okay, understand that. The world, the planet Earth was created for our sakes. All right, we're in this position of oppression and being at the bottom because we went off. All right, we sinned against Yahweh Shem Yahushua. We fell away, as the scriptures talk about. So therefore, we were put into captivity, man. Okay, we fell from glory, But the mercy of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is that he's going to put us back on top. And that's what's coming. This is the patience and faith of the saints, Second Ezra 6 and 55. Again, all this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. Verse 56. As for the other people, right? The other nations. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing and be like unto spittle, right? So that right there, that shows you how the Lord feels about the other nations, He likened them unto spittle and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. Verse 57, and now, O Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, behold these heathen, right? Behold these heathen which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. And why did this happen? Because we went off. Okay, we turned our back on the Lord. We clung on to idols. We forgot His name for other gods. The scriptures talk about that continuously, man. So therefore, the Lord put the heathen over us. Okay, it says, and have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. Right. You can read Lamentations chapter 5, verse 8 to add on to that. Verse 58. But we thy people whom thou hast but we thy people whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. You see that? And it was the Lord that did that. All right, it tells you that in Baruch, the 4th chapter, that the Lord put us in captivity not to destroy us, but because we sinned against Him. Let me get that. I'm just thinking out loud, and I'll finish that out. You know what I'm saying? This is going in the spirit here, right? But he's right. There is going to be a so-called melanated ruled planet to come. That's the future. What Esau will call the so-called black planet, but it's not just so-called black people. It's the nation of Israel. All right, so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and Hispanics. All right, you are the next to rule. Whether you believe that or not, whether you agree with it or not, is written, right? So you Edomite saving Jakes out there, you need to get a grip, all right, and come out of that Stockholm syndrome spirit, But anyway, let me get that in Baruch. What was I thinking about? Baruch, the 4th chapter, how the Lord put us in captivity. All right, this is Baruch 4 and 6. You were sold to the nations, right? You were sold to the nations not for your destruction, but because you moved the Most High to wrath. You were delivered unto the enemies. You see that? So this is why this happened. For you provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to the Most High. And that's always been the story of the Israelites, man. Even going all the way back to the sons of God. All right, we fell away from the oral tradition that was given unto Adam, that was passed down. We fell away from that by committing idolatry, man. All right, and turning to the idols of the heathen. And the Lord brought the flood, and the Lord preserved that seed, that bloodline through Noah. Okay, through Shem on down to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see what I'm saying? But that's always been the fall of the sons of God, the Israelites, It says, Baruch 4:8, you have forgotten, right? You have forgotten the everlasting power that brought you up. Look what happened to us in this captivity. All right, this is the only captivity where we've literally forgotten who we are as the Israelites, man. Okay, we forgot our nationality, we forgot our language. Okay, we forgot the name of our power, because all those things were stripped and beaten from us, according to history, according to prophecy. So it says, you have forgotten the everlasting God that brought you up, and you have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you, right? Because part of the curses as well, when you read Deuteronomy, I believe it's the 4th chapter, let me get it. Also part of the curses was that we would be uprooted out of the Holy Land, and we would see it no more again. That happened, because who's occupying the land now? All right, the small hats, all right, so-called Arabic nations, Ishmael, Ham, all right, you got Elam up in there, okay, so you got all manner of heathen in that land, but that's the prophecy, right? Let me get that too. I think it's Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. Let me check it real fast. Exactly, this is Deuteronomy 4, just going back to the curses, Deuteronomy 4 and verse, I read 25, and the point is in 26, 27, all right? This is Deuteronomy 4 and verse 25. It says, when thou shalt beget children and children's children, and you shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image or likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Lord thy power, to provoke him to anger. Verse 26, the point, Deuteronomy 4 and 26. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto you go over Jordan to possess it. So the Lord said that we would utterly perish from off the land. Okay, we were kicked out, taken into captivity, right? And the Lord literally made the land of Israel barren, man. Because once, Israel was once a fruitful landmass, all right? But he stripped the vegetation and the water away. This is why in that land they have to import, exotic, trees and water and shit like that, because that land is literally cursed. All right. So it says, ye shall utterly perish from off the land whereunto you go over Jordan to possess it, and ye should not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed. That happened, all right? The Lord cast us out of the land, and he cast us from his sight. All right? Verse 27, and the Lord, Yahweh Shai, shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whether the Lord, Yahweh Shai, shall lead you. So that's clear. So we were cast out the land, right? We were conquered and put into captivity. All right, and we were scattered among the heathen. All right, so that's plain. So when you get into, the process of the Gentiles and how that happened, and that's really dealing with Israel, man. We were the ones that were scattered amongst the heathen. All right, so you got to understand that's part of the mystery of the Gentiles, man. We were scattered to the four corners of the earth, in those lands that Jake dwell in, that he was scattered to. They were taking on those heathen customs. The culture, the language, all of that, man. But anyway, let's get back to the point. Just wanted to read that real quick. Let's go to Psalms, the 2nd chapter. right? Because yes, we will rule the planet Earth, and that's prophecy. That's the future, all right? And this is what these Edomites fear the most, you know. Let me go to Psalm 2nd chapter, and that was it on that video. Let me see if I can remove this from the screen. All right, but that's the that was the point of that video. So let's move on here. All right. Be wise, O you kings, and be instructed, you judges of the earth. You know, why did the Lord say that? Because we're going to literally rule and own the earth, man. All right, this is Psalm the 2nd chapter. Let me go there real quick. All right, this is Psalm chapter 2. Right, Psalm chapter 2, verse 1, and it reads, it says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing, right? And these nations are really fighting for supremacy right now. That's what this war is about, man. Who's going to be the next ruling, you know, power on the earth? China, Russia, North Korea, you know. But it's all vanity, all right? It says, verse 2, the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, right? That's why you have these UN and EU councils and all of that. All right, these secret meetings and stuff. You know, it's all you know against Jake. You know, it says, "Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us." Right, and that's what happened when we went into captivity as a nation. All right, the Esau and the heathen, they separated the tribes. You know, they separated the tribes. They hid our identity, all right? They labeled us a new name, all right? It says, put us in slavery, you know? It says, he that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. And the Lord is doing that now, all right? These nations are in derision. They're against each other. They can't agree on nothing, all right? It's all this corruption that's coming out, all right? This place is about to fall. You see that we're at the brink of destruction, nuclear war, all right, confusion, all right. It says, verse 5, Psalms 2 and 5, then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure, all right. Going back to what? The chariots, the Lord's coming with the power. As I was talking about yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple of days ago, there's more footage, and I'm going to try to look into it. There's more footage of so-called UFO, UAPs being released by the government. All right, they're you know, they're acknowledging more and more as time goes by of the threat from our power. All right, the chariots, the thousands of angels, you know, that are being recorded. Things are happening on the planet Earth that are going underreported. You know, the Lord is magnifying his power. Sirach 36 goes into that. You know, let the nations raise thy right hand and let the nations see thy power. All right, so we're in that time, man. Deliverance, salvation, destruction, right? Psalms 2 and 6. Yet I've set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. All right, this is talking about Yahushua right here. All right. Verse 7. I would declare the decree. The Lord Yahushua said unto me, thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Verse 8. The point. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, all right? So we're going to have the heathen, the other nations, as a part of our inheritance. We're going to own them. Just like how these devils own us on this side, we're going to own them. And that's part of the law too. Let's get that in Leviticus. The Lord said that he's going to allow the heathen to be our inheritance, all right? We're going to possess nations, all right? They're going to be under our subjection, all right? And again, just adding on to the video, the point I'm making is that Esau and these nations, they fear a so-called melanated planet. They know what's coming. You don't think they watch these videos? You don't think they go back and read these scriptures, man? Right? Because they all hope that we're wrong. You know, they all hope what we're saying is not true. Right? But I want to just get that in, was it Leviticus in the law? I think it's Leviticus 25. The Lord said we're going to have the heathen for thy inheritance, right? Leviticus 25. Okay. And verse in verse, let's see, Leviticus 25 and 43. All right. And it reads, it says, thou shalt not rule over them with rigor. Matter of fact, let's start at 42 to make the point, because there's two types of servants. And people get this confused. All right. So this is Leviticus 25. And this, it says right here in the top, it says laws. It says laws for Israel. All right. Leviticus 25 and verse 42. And it reads, it says, for they are my servants which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They should not be sold as bondmen. All right. And you find out too in 1 Kings, I think it's 9 and 22 to 23, Solomon kept his law. All right. Because you had you had two types of servants. You had your brother, your Israelite kinsman, and then you had the heathen. All right. And you weren't supposed to rule over your brother with rigor. All right. It says, verse 43, thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shall fear thy power. Verse 44, the point. But thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, right, slaves, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall you buy bondmen and bondmaids. See that? Let's read that again. It says, both thy bondmen, this is Leviticus 25 and 44, both thy bondmen, slave men, and bondmaid, slave woman, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall you buy bondmen and bondmaids. All right, so that's part of the law, that the heathens will be our slaves, right? And we're going to rule over them in the future to come, in the world to come is the point, all right? Let's go back. Psalm 2 and 8, it says, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, right? In the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession, man. The uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. And it's crazy, too, because you think about, like this videos we've seen, I'm just speaking out loud, there's videos that's circulating online, and they're talking about different parts of the earth that's being discovered, parts that that's been hidden from the public. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of believe, it's parts of the earth that Esau hasn't tapped into that we're going to tap into. You see what I'm saying? I saw videos, just stuff, just thinking out loud, just stuff about behind the ice wall, stuff we don't teach, of course, but, there's parts of the earth that haven't been tapped into. And the Lord is reserving that for the elect. That's why he said the uttermost parts. So let me read it again. Right? Psalms 2 and 8, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. So there's parts of this world that's been, untapped, undiscovered, so to speak. The earth is bigger than what Esau has taught the world, So there's parts of the world that we're going to tap into. All right? There's certain areas that Esau can't go into that we're going to be able to go into. It's the point that I'm saying. So that's all the mysteries. We're going to tap into all those mysteries, all right, when Yahweh Shai, changes us, It says, Psalms 2 and 9, thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel, right? So that represents power, all right? Isaiah 60, all right? Let me add on to that. Because those that don't want to adhere, all right, you're going to be beaten down, right? Did they not do us the same way? Right? Hey, and you're going to find out, man, the Lord is all about balance, man. Right? The things we suffered, our enemies are going to suffer, man. The mercy of the Lord. He brought us through hell and back, but he's going to have mercy upon us, and we're going to get the get back. Right? Isaiah 60 and 10, it says, and the son of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their king shall minister unto thee. In my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. You see that? So we went through all of this as a nation, but the end, the Lord said that he was going to have mercy on us. Right? Verse 11, therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they should not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. Think about that, man. We're going to be ruling over the kings of this world, man. All right? Vladimir Putin going into slavery. Kim Jong-un going into slavery. All right? The leaders of the Arab world going into slavery. Okay? The leaders of Ham, all of that. Okay? They all going into slavery. Kings are going to be brought before us. All right? People who are so-called of importance on this side that play a role in the of ruling this world, all right, are going to be underneath our feet in the time to come. Right? Verse 12, Isaiah 60 and 12, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee, right? For the nation and the kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. This is the future. This is what he was talking about in the video. What do you say? Yeah, an irrational fear of a so-called black planet. This is what's coming. Ain't gonna be no damn coexisting. These nations gonna be serving us, man, with rigor. You see? Let's get some more, man. Right? Let's get some more. Yeah, that was the point. There's one I was thinking about, can't think it off the top of my head. It's in the book of Zechariah, where it kind of goes into how we're going to be ruling over the nations, and if they don't adhere to the laws, we're going to stop. We're going to shut up the rain. I'm roughly paraphrasing. Somebody can post that. It's in Zechariah. I can't think it off my head, right? But this back in Psalms 2 and 9 again. It says, "Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." Verse 10: "Be wise, therefore, O you kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth." All right, and that's the elect. All right, really the house of David, man. Those represent the kings and priests. All right, in the world to come. All right, be wise now, therefore, O you kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. We're going to be the judges of the planet Earth. And you could tie that in with Romans the 8th chapter. You know, being joint heirs with Yahushua. We're going to partake in the blessings, in the glory, in the government. Okay, that's the ruling authority for the world to come. That's the righteous government that's going to be set up. Let me get that too. All right, because the house of David matters. All right, these are the things that you so-called Christians won't talk about. You don't have the understanding about that. You're not talking about the government that's going to rule the world to come. What's going to happen next? You know. This is Isaiah 9. Okay? That's the melanated ruled world to come. This is what these Edomites fear. All right? Thinking about the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. I might get that too. Right? But this is Isaiah 9. Isaiah 9 and 6, it says, "For unto us," matter of fact, we'll start at 5. Isaiah 9 and 5. "For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." So this war that's coming on the earth, as we are living in that generation where we're seeing these things come to pass, this last war is going to be with burning and fuel of fire, all right, nuclear destruction, right? And then right after that, it says this, verse 6, Isaiah 9 and 6, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder." See that? So Yahushua is bringing in an eternal government. That's the house of David. All right? This is the foreshadowing of Yahushua here. All right? Isaiah 9 and 6, "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder." So what is this talking about, man? Right? "And his name should be called Wonderful Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father," right? Because he's the bishop of the church. All right? The bishop is the head of the church. All right? It says, and that's really the elect, right? It says the Prince of Peace. It says, verse 7, of the increase of his government. Okay, that government, that's talking about the throne of David, the heaven, the kingdom of heaven. Okay, the kingdom of heaven is going to be a literal government. All right, on the earth. Okay, we ain't just Esau tell you the Christian church make you thinking that you're gonna be holding hands on some kumbaya shit, floating in the heavens above the clouds. Everybody dressed in white, holding hands, hugging each other. That's not what that's talking about, man. It's gonna be an actual government on the earth where the law, statute, commandments are gonna be the standard of the planet Earth, man. All right, it talks about in the scriptures. It says when the laws are implemented on the earth, then the world shall learn righteousness, man. That's what's going to bring the earth back to its purest form, because the laws are going to be the standard. Okay, the earth is going to be ran in the way the Lord intended it to be ran. Right, Isaiah 9:7 again. Of the increase of his government and peace, there should be no end. It's not going to be no end to the kingdom of heaven. All right, Isaiah 45. 17, I say, that Israel is that everlasting world without end. All right? Of the increase of his government and peace, there should be no end. Upon the throne of David, see? Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord, Yahweh Shemir Shai of hosts, will perform this. The Lord sent a word into Jacob and have lighted upon Israel. So this is what's coming. This is the world. This is the government. All right, as he was talking about the melanated world, so-called black world. This is the world to come. This is the future. All right, it's prophecy. Okay, those that were oppressed and downtrodden. Okay, that would be at the bottom will be back on top. Okay, this is what brings dread to Esau, man. This is why he can't sleep at night. This is why they're panicking over these videos and the fact that this knowledge is going out, man. That Jake is waking up. All right, the great awakening, the dry bones coming back to life, man. All those things tie into this, right? This is why he's all jacked up in the spirit. Hey, Thawada Akio. All right, GMS, pray always, hopeful elect. The water, my brother. Yeah, Zechariah 14. Let me go there too. Let me just pull it out in the sword. That was Zechariah 14:7. I knew one was in Zechariah as well. All right, let me just get it real quick. Zechariah 14:7. The water Akia. All right, Zechariah 14:17, and it reads. It says. Matter of fact, let me start up a little bit. Zechariah 14:14, it says, and Judah shall also fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together. Ooh, man. It says, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. Verse 15, and so shall be the plague of the horse and of the mule and of the camel and of the ass and of all the beasts that should be in these tents as displayed. Verse 16, Zechariah 14:16. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord Yahweh Shemir Shai of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Right. So this is going into the fact that in the kingdom of heaven, the nations are going to keep our laws. Remember, the law, statutes, commandments are going to be the standard in the earth. Right? Really, that's like we talked about at camp. That's really the New World Order. Right? Everything that this devil is doing is basically a knockoff, if you so to speak, of really what the Lord is about to do. Okay? The real New World Order is when the world is established in righteousness, man. All right? When Yahweh Shai, King David, all right, the 12, the 144,000, that righteous government is set back in order, man. That's really the New World Order. All right? So the heathen are going to have to keep the laws, all right, in the kingdom, the high holy days, all of that, all right? And that's going to be done through force. Verse 17, And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. See? Right? In Revelation 11, it talks about how the Lord gave the two witnesses the power, over the rain to shut up heaven. I'm roughly paraphrasing, right? It says in verse 18, and if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there should be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles, right? So they're going to be punished. Verse 19, this should be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles. You see that? So again, this is the world to come, right? You don't keep the laws, you don't keep the high holy days, you're gonna be punished. You're gonna get plagues sent upon you, right? And that proves again that what? We're gonna be in power. We're gonna be the rulers, right? Hence the title, "Be wise, O therefore you kings," right? And be instructed, ye judges of the earth. That's what that's talking about, man. That's the complete authority that we're gonna have, man. The hopeful elect, the house of David. Right? Let me make that point in Luke 2, just the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, right? Because that's kind of like what I'm getting at here, how these Edomites are just like, they're bugging out on the fact that they're losing power, man. All right? That the white man, the so-called white man, is no longer the authority of the planet Earth, man. He's not feared. He's not revered as the top guy anymore. That ship has sailed and left, right? And it's really the Lord. He's stripping him from the power, his influence. His witchcraft ain't working no more. That veil, as it tells you in Isaiah 25 and 7, how the veil will be lifted up. Luke 16. All right, Luke 16 and starting at verse, this is Luke 16 and verse 19, and it reads, all right, Luke 16 and 19, this is red letter Yahushua speaking. Luke 16 and 19, it says, there was a certain rich man, all right, and that rich man is really Esau, going back to the elites, all right, the people who run the world, that control the money and the resources, the food supply, that make the laws, all right, this is him. And there was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen. All right, and that purple and fine linen is all what representing of power and rulership. Which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. All right, so he lived a lavish lifestyle. All right, verse 20. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, all right, which represents the Israelites, all right, which was laid at his gate full of sores, all right. The sores represent the curses, man, all right, oppression, slavery, all right, genocide, being at the bottom, your life not being regarded, all right, being poor. Those are the sores. It tells you in Isaiah, the first chapter, that our people are plagued with those sores and they can't be healed. Not even with healing ointment can heal them. All right? That's the curses the Lord put upon us, man. We would be sick from the head to the foot. All right? It says, in the beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores. Verse 21, Luke 16:21. And desiring to be fed with crumbs, which fell from the rich man's table, all right? That's Esau. And Jake, that's basically Jake's life, right? They labor for crumbs. Now, niggas is still working in their 70s and 80s for crumbs. Can't retire. Can't even really enjoy your your little social security, man, because it's not gonna be enough to sustain you, man. Niggas is working to their 90s, man, till they drop dead, all for crumbs, man. All right, paycheck to paycheck, man, just to get taxed the shit out you, right? All that money you make during the week, and then you after taxes, you coming home with crumbs, man. All right, barely making it. That's the lifestyle of Lazarus, of Jake. Right, designed to be fed with the crumbs which fed from the rich man's table. Right. Moreover, the dogs came. Right, the dogs are the other nations, the heathen. Right. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. Right, the dogs. Let me get that too. That's back in Zephaniah. Right, I think it's Zephaniah 1:15. Right, because as it says in the Apocrypha, which nation has not pretty much benefited on the destruction of our people? You know, that's why when you read Psalm 83 and Psalm chapter 2, you understand that, man. All the heathens played a role in the destruction of Jerusalem, man. So that's why it makes sense in the kingdom in the world to come, we're going to have all these niggas in slavery. That's the balance. And they openly show how much they hate Jake on this side. Outside of Esau, you got, Ishmael will make mockery, Moab and Ammon. You got Ham. You got all them damn nations that make mockery and talk shit against our people, right? But let me get that real quick. So I don't understand why you would still be in the spirit of wanting to save everybody when these nations actually hate you and they openly display that, all right? That's the shit that tripped me out, right? When it comes to you 2/3 niggas out there, man, right? Zephaniah 1, right? Was it Zechariah or Zephaniah? Hold on. I think it's Zechariah. I'm at Zephaniah. Hold on. All right, Zechariah 1 and was it 15? Yep, Zechariah 1 and 15. We're talking about the dogs, the heathen, right? Zephaniah 1 and 15. I am very sore pleased with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction, right? So yeah, Ishmael, right? The trans-Saharan slave trade, right? The so-called Muslim. You niggas want to be Muslims, although, there's an influx of niggas want to be Muslims and shit, talking about Quran and wearing the bullshit, right? You go back in history, hey, Ishmael was killing your ass, man. Had you in slavery, chopping your rod off, right? And them damn so-called Arabic Muslims, they don't respect you black Muslim niggas, man. You a joke to them, man. Outside praying 3 times a day on that Aladdin carpet, man. Trying to be seen and shit. They don't respect you, man. Moab, so-called Chinese, Japanese, they don't respect you. They selling you poison in your neighborhoods. You eating chopped up cat, rat, and dog, raccoons, right? They feeding you that shit in them damn Chinese stores, man, them restaurants and shit. And that got exposed on the internet too, man. Them niggas was actually harvesting cats and shit in the back of the restaurant, man. They was breeding them and then bringing them in to cut them up and put them in the food, right? This is a known fact. All right, selling you poison, alcohol, and cigarettes and shit. The beauty products with all the chemicals in there that's killing Jake. All right, they forward the affliction, man. They was eating our people and shit. It wasn't just Esau eating us neither. Hey, Moab was eating us. Right, goddamn Ham. Chopping Jake up, eating him, stewing him up and shit. This is a known fact. So you mean to tell me all this shit that was done to our people that these heathen are not going to pay? What the hell is wrong with you niggas, man? But anyway, right? As I said, they helped forward the affliction, right? And the dogs came and licked his sores. The heathens extremely benefit off Jake, man. Right? That's why if they want to prosper, what do? They build their businesses right in your neighborhood, man. Right? And they make a killing off Jake. Feeding you them damn poisons and shit, man. Verse 22. Luke 16:22. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. All right. So this is symbolic to receiving salvation. All right. Jake receiving salvation, right? Through the chariots. It says the rich man also died and was buried, all right, which that's symbolic to pretty much his power being stripped away, America being destroyed, It says, verse 23, Luke 16:23. It says, and in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, right? So this ain't talking about how the rich man went to hell and he was in the lake of fire and just, screaming and hollering and shit. No, this is symbolic to when we are in our heaven, in the kingdom, Esau is going to be in his hell, right? The elites are going into slavery, okay? And him being in torments represents him catching pure hell, getting his ass whooped, all right? Working from sun up to sundown. No mercy, man. That's the hell, right? Getting his ass kicked, right? In hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and see if Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. Verse 24, and he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy upon me, right? So here it is. You got the rich man, Esau, crying for mercy, right? For all the affliction and shit that he's going through, all right? Because he's gonna get extreme hell put on him in the kingdom of heaven, all right? This is why they're so damn scared. Hey, the elites, they know this, man. This is why they're trying to fucking scramble and flee the earth, in different parts of the earth, in their bunkers. They're trying to upload their consciousness into a fucking cyborg. Because they know what happens next after they die. They know what's going to happen in the next life when they're brought back. And they can't get away from that. That's why when you read Wisdom of Solomon, not to rant, but it's Wisdom of Solomon, 2nd chapter, it's basically them. They're talking about how they gotta live their life to the fullest. Because they know after that, that's it. I just want to make that point and we'll finish that Luke 16. I was just thinking about that too. Right? Luke 16. I mean, not Luke 16. Wisdom of Solomon. Let me get that. I think it's the 2nd chapter, right? Right. Wisdom of Solomon, just thinking out loud, right? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. Okay. Yeah. I'll read through it, but it's heavy, though. Wisdom of Solomon 2, in verse 1, it says, for the ungodly said, reasoning within themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious. In the death of a man, there's no remedy, right? That's why, they're trying to use the AI and shit. They want to upload their spirit, their soul to machines so they can live forever, right? Because they know that there's no death. There's no remedy for death, even though they're boasting like they can defeat death, but it's not going to happen, right? That's why they're pushing that transhumanism shit. It says, in the death of a man, there was no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. See? That's why they're scrambling right now. For we are born at all adventure, and we shall be hereafter as though we had never been. For the breath in our nostrils is as smoke, and in a little spark in the moving of our heart, which being extinguished, our body shall be turned into ashes, and our spirit shall vanish as the soft air. So they know they ain't got a lot of time, man. Okay? They know that their time is short. And our name shall be forgotten in time, right? He shall have no name in the street. And no man shall have our works in remembrance. See, that's the end of the Edomite influence. Everything he's done is going to get wiped away. And our life shall pass away as a trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun, and overcome with the heat thereof. For our time is a very shadow that passeth away. They know this is like the mindset of the elite, the people who run the world, right? For our time is a very shadow that passeth away, and after our end there is no returning. For it is fast sealed, so that no man cometh again. Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth. This is what they're doing. Got everybody in slavery and captivity. They're trying to push a chip so they can be gods over humanity through that chip. Wars, okay? Oppression, food shortage. They got control. So like they said, let us use the creatures like as in youth, right? Let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, and let no flower of the spring pass us by. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds, before they are withered. This is why they promoted themselves as gods on the side, man. Right? It says, let none of us go without his part of our, how you say that word? Voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion and our lot is this. Right. So remember, Esau was blessed with the fatness of the earth. All right. Genesis the 27th chapter goes into that. He's blessed with the resources, the money, the sword. But all of that shit is short-lived. All right, Satan's little season, according to Revelation 20, is over. So this is what they know. This is the point I'm making, man. They know their time is up, man. So let's go back to Luke 16, as we were reading the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Right? Luke 16:24, and he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. All right, so Esau catching pure hell in the kingdom. All right, slavery, getting his ass kicked every day. All right, that's the flame. That's the hell. All right, James 2:13. For he that, I'm roughly paraphrasing, for he that didn't give mercy should not receive mercy. Let me get that. Instead of roughly paraphrasing, let me just read it. All right, Esau is not receiving no mercy. But as we read in this parable here, he's crying out, he's begging to have mercy upon him. It's not going to happen. All right, James 2:13. James 2:13, for he shall have judgment without mercy, that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. You see that? So he ain't receiving not an ounce of mercy, man. His ass is grass. All right. Verse 25, Luke 16:25. But Abraham says, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receiveth thy good things, right? Because remember, Esau had the earth in his hand. All right. He was in his heaven. He had rulership. He had control over the world's resources, money, food, the people. You see what I'm saying? That's part of the good things that he received. It says, but Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receiveth thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things, right? What did Lazarus receive? Which is symbolic to Jake. What did he receive? Hell, oppression, slavery, genocide, death, destruction. Okay? That's what he received. No mercy, right? Those are the evil things that Lazarus received. It says, but now he is comforted. How is he comforted? Because now Lazarus is in the kingdom. He chilling now. He got rest. He back on top. Right? But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. You see that? So changing places. Now the tables are turned. Now you at the bottom. Now the curses are upon you. You see that? Now you're catching hell. Now you're in slavery, being tormented. Verse 26. And beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, all right, which is that separation. There's going to be a separation between Jacob and Esau in the kingdom of heaven, all right? They're not going to be enjoying the splendor of the kingdom. They're not going to be sitting, Esau ain't going to be sitting on them goddamn thrones, man, ruling and passing judgment, all right? He going to be in the kingdom, but he going to be in the kingdom in slavery, all right? It says, so that they would not pass from hence, that you cannot, neither can they pass to us that will come from thence. See that? So Esau, he ain't receiving no salvation. He not receiving mercy, man. Nor these heathen. Verse 27. Then said he, I pray thee therefore, Father, that thou wouldst sendest him to my father's house. For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Verse 29. Abraham said unto him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. All right. So we've been telling Esau, all right, what his destiny entails. All right, what his future beholds. All right, that is going to be destruction and slavery. All right. So he already knows what's going to happen. Okay. It says, verse 30. And he say, Luke 16 and 30, and he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went into them for the dead, they will repent. All right. And we know Esau is not going to repent. He can't repent. All right. Verse 31. And he said unto him, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. So Esau's done for, man. That's the point. All right. This is his world to come. All right. Slavery and total destruction, man. All right. But Jacob is the ruler in this world that's being set up. All right. Scripture said the kingdom is prepared for you. Watch. All right. So they know what it is. All right. Let me get one more before we wrap it up. All right. Like I was saying, just based off that short video clip we played. All right. We're not going to be coexisting with Esau and these nations, man. All right. You bugged out Israelites out there. You jakes that know you Israelites that want to save the heathen. You need to get that out your damn head. And if you're teaching that, you're going to be destroyed anyway. Right? Because you causing the Lord to be a liar. And you adding and taking away from the scriptures too. You know, you family matters Israelites, you know, you want to love everybody, you know. We don't deal with the camps. The camps make us look bad and shit like that. Lord gonna get y'all, man. Because y'all not right, man. And you pushing a false doctrine. All right? Let me get something real quick. Hold on. Let's see. That's it. You know, we'll keep it there. Yeah, that's it, man. Isaiah 14, that's a good one too. How we're gonna rule over our oppressors. You know, we're gonna truly have rest. You see what I'm saying? What Jake talking about, man? All right, let me see if I can get one more before I close it out. Let me just want to add something else on there. Bear with me 1 second. Is it here? Right? Hey, the world belongs to us, man. Forever. Right? Let's get that's it. Yeah, that'll be it, man. We'll wrap this up. Yeah, so I'll leave it like that. But that's the point, man. I pray that this lesson was edifying, you know. That's the time we coming into. Here's the patience and faith of the saints, man. All right? We're at the door of destruction. Salvation is around the corner, man. Got to go through the straight gate, all these different things, man, before we can enter into our glory and rest, man. You know? But that's it, man. That's the world to come. Shalom.